Welcome to the Collingwood Rant. I'm Sly.
And I'm 5 day breaks. Go proverbial yourself. Spook.
What a fucking win, Spook.
Oh, that was incredible. Incredible.
All right, so let's go. Let's step back a little bit. I mean, rested Mycheck, Pendlebury, Maynard, De Goey and Maynard, or Maynard's meant to have a bit of an abdominal strain. De Goey's meant to be managing something also. Uh, Rumors that De Goey's got broken ribs. Heard anything about that?
No, other than you mentioned, I read it in a group chat, but no confirmation.
Yeah, I was curious about that because I mean, I've had broken ribs, and while they would impact your collision and all that, it's impacting his running, which is really strange if that's what the case is, unless they're really badly broken and they're laying on a lung or something. Uh, Maynard also had a bit of a sore, so you got four players out. McStay's been out for a bit, so got a really young inexperienced team, bringing in Allen, Sullivan, Markov. I can't remember who the other one was. Uh, what hope did you give us? I mean, I don't want to pull up messages that you might have sent me, but what hope did you give us?
Look, I was probably a little bit concerned. I thought the outs were going to be hard to cover with some of the ins, but geez, I have to say I was wrong. I think they all um, performed admirably, except for Houston.
Yeah, we'll get to some of those other guys. So they got to a 20-point lead, opened the game. I don't think it's any surprise that coming off a 5 day break, coming off a plane, that we're going to start slow and work our way into it. I mean, we said to start slow regardless anyway. Did you hear alarm bells at that point?
We looked horrible in that first. When they kicked those three in about what 5 to
Yeah.
7 minutes or something like that. We looked sluggish. I mean, they were always going to come out hard, and I wonder, in hindsight, whether it was a little bit of attempting to rope a dope or whatnot. But we just weren't running. We weren't making contests. They were just working the ball in ease and scoring. And the crowd was getting behind them, and you started to think that's, geez, I hope that absolute shitness is going to just last that first 5 to 10 minutes, and fortunately it did.
Well, it's a really interesting
To
one
turn
because
that
that,
around was quite impressive
yeah, but I mean,
in that first
ultimately,
quarter.
they didn't really turn much around. And this is not a criticism, but they smashed us in stats. They smashed us in clearances. They smashed us in forward entries. In pretty much every statistic, I think, outside of intercept marks, they smashed us. The only place we really beat them was on the scoreboard. For once, we kicked accurately. However, we kept the game alive by missing a few sitters, and Hill missed one straight in front. Uh,
Yeah,
but
memory.
yeah, but we're just bizarrely efficient in the way that I don't think Collingwood generally is that efficient.
No, it's just going back to the stats. I think obviously you can't put them up on the screen or anything, and
No, I've
that's
got
the
him.
ones.
No, I can look
If
him
you're
up.
referencing that, yeah, they're the ones that Turt sent to us. I sent it to the boys before, and we were just talking about it. I mean, as I said, any other day on those numbers, you've just been smashed. I think it's testimony to two things: that just how efficiently we ended up playing, and how poor Freo was with their the way that they were working the ball at the end there. I mean, they get it up there pretty well, but I think I'm pretty certain I heard in the commentary that I think that they took a mark inside 50 for the first time in the last
Yeah.
quarter. Yeah, just everything was just being bombed in. I mean, that's usually traditionally our bread and butter. And as much as you derided them last week for their kicking inefficiency, what did we finish up with? We missed a
Finished
few.
up 15-7.
Yeah, I mean, at one point I think we were sitting 10-3.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And then,
everything. It was the bizarro Collingwood out there today from what I thought it'd be.
yeah, it's really interesting because Longmuir was a, Buckley assistant, and they really played very much like a Buckley Collingwood team, the, 2017 sort of models that statistically they'd dominate and they'd get forward entries, but there'd just be no reward for effort. And that was something you used to see a lot in Buckley's years prior to 2018. So I actually thought that was interesting in the way they played. Uh, Nick Daicos, what's up with him? In the post-game interview, he said there's nothing wrong. He's just a bit sore, but geez,
Yeah, they were working on his hip at in the first quarter. He just didn't look right after that. I mean, he didn't look right the whole game. What was his numbers? What did he finish up with? It was only about 18 touches or something, wasn't it?
Yeah,
In the
let me
goal.
look them up. Yep. Keep sing some music while I look them up.
I might just join in with your look tonight because we can do anything.
It's like the Blues Brothers.
Yeah, do you want me to fill empty air? You found it yet?
Nick Daicos, one goal, 1 point, which is a really, miss from straight in front. Actually got 18 touches, 10 kicks, 8 handballs, 2 marks, 3 tackles, 4 clearances, which I think were pretty much all in the last quarter. 233
Yeah.
meters gained. Uh, yeah. He showed a bit of zip in the last quarter, but I mean, there's times like he showed a bit of zip, and I thought he looked like, when you're carrying an injury and then you push yourself, but then as the adrenaline wears off and you slow down, you really feel it. And that's what he looked like
Oh,
at times.
he was clearly hampered. I mean, clearly hampered his goal kicking as well. I can't wear these. Um, yeah, I think whatever was wrong with him, he carried through the game. I actually thought he'd be subbed off in the last quarter. He just looked so.
Well, the side bottom sub is obviously a tactical sub. I think one of the things that was wrong with him is that, apparently if you're an opponent, in this case Wagner, you can hold him, scrag him, maul him, and it's
Oh,
fine. But the moment he holds you fleetingly back, he's penalised.
oh, it's ridiculous. I mean, you may bring it up later, but I thought across the board the umpiring was fucking appalling
Oh, it's
tonight.
deplorable. I was going to bring it up and shout it because that was as fucking bad as you could see umpiring. And there was some that were just so blatant. I mean, there was one that you complained about earlier, with the sorry, Quaynor, when Voss just sort of picked him up and moved him aside, which is reminiscent of Rocker and Zach Dawson from about 15 years ago. But yeah,
I mean, the
the,
ball was nowhere near him at that point. Surely that's just you're holding the bloke. That's a free.
well,
It's a
and then
hold.
there's a few times you could see Cox had to go up one arm because he was being held. The worst one, not the worst two, was really that last quarter when they were coming. Membry tackled, those things that Pierce, and he actually planted the ball down like it was a try,
Oh,
which is dropping the ball. And then he threw it to get it out there, and that was all fine. That was as fucking bad as a decision as I've seen. And the commentators didn't go on about it. It's actually funny. Let me just sort of backtrack a bit because the umpiring was questionable last week. David King ripped into it. Not unsurprisingly, Razor Ray was on AFL 360 and defended all those decisions. It's amazing that when we got the rub of the green against the Bulldogs, there were all these times that Bulldogs should have got frees when they examined it in retrospect. But when we got the worst of it, it was like, oh no, they're all justified. What the fuck is it that apparently there's this double standard if we're, on the worst end of it, it's just bad luck
uh,
and that all those frees were
well,
there or weren't there.
there was
But
that
when we
one in
get
the
the
first
benefit,
quarter.
isn't she? Sorry,
Yeah,
John.
yeah. Lockie Schultz was spun round 360 and handballed the ball away.
Perfectly too.
I have not seen that paid for years now because they just let it go. And tonight he was infringed. And I think the commentator goes, "Well, I actually thought that was called a bit
Privilege.
early."
Yeah.
And he got the ball away. And you're thinking it's just like you've got these rules, you adjudicate them, but the interpretation each week just changes. Clearly, something's happened because they were hot on the holdings
For a
tonight, and
while.
I thought we got the rough end of the stick with some of the
Oh, we got
softest
terribly.
holds I've ever seen. It was just absurd. But
Also,
anyway,
I can't remember who was in defense. Someone picked it up, basically got tackled. It was a free kick. And it's like he had no prior opportunity, no chance to get rid of it. Was wrapped up in the tackle where he couldn't dispose of it. It's honestly, AFL, you have fucked this rule so bad. You have totally just John Ralphed it. It is one of the worst um, officiated rules or one of the worst interpreted rules because you'd think it'd be easy. If you don't dispose of it legally by hand or foot, it's hot, dropping the ball. If you can't
not
dispose of it because you're
anymore.
physically impinged from like actually trying to get the disposal out and the ball's held to you, then it's just holding them, the ball's held to you and it's a ball up. But the rules are just a fucking lottery.
The other one that really shit me, and I think you messaged about it as well. It was I can't remember which Freo player it was, but he deliberately ran the ball over the boundary
Yeah,
line.
yeah.
But he deliberately stopped. And when
Yep.
he realized he was going to get run down, he started edging slow,
Yeah.
stop, slow. and then run it over. And you're going, that is just textbook deliberate. I mean, if you
Yeah,
had a dictionary in front of you and had the word deliberate there, you'd have a picture of that. But, play on. Not play on, but it was the throw in, but,
Toronto. Yeah.
shocking.
Crisp, beast of the game, breaking the record tonight.
Oh, superb game. Superb
The
goal he kicked too.
two, he kicked
Then
two.
burst through that back and
Yeah,
snapped. Sorry.
yeah, he kicked two goals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, he
no,
was brilliant.
it's actually interesting because last year when De Goey and all those other guys were out, he was in the middle briefly and he was really good. And just wonder, maybe that's where he should be playing. Maybe he should be zoning someone else elsewhere because he tends to get like more of the let's go to halfback or let's go elsewhere. His best position seems to be in the middle, and he's got a good size. He's a big guy. He bursts through packs. He's done that repeatedly. So I don't know. McCreary, you ripped into him last week. I think you called for him to be traded.
Yeah, aside from one little short step, which I'll forgive, he had a great game, and in the guts too. I think that's he should be spending more time in there because he became a bullocking presence when he was on the ball, and I think the other thing with all that tonight, like or compared to last week where you bagged McRae for his coaching, I thought he coached well tonight. I mean,
Yeah, I
shaking the
agree.
midfield up a fair bit, it made us unpredictable,
Yeah,
and
I
I think
totally
that
agree.
that really threw Freo. I think they were set up for the way they thought we were going to play, and once we started moving the pieces round, they were left flat-footed.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I might criticize McRae on is I just thought Darcy Cameron really struggled in the on the centre bounce. I mean, he was great around the ground and all. He's fantastic around the ground, but Jackson just kept jumping over him. And I thought maybe they should have used Cox a little bit more as a battering ram to just wear Jackson down. I mean, Cox was an interesting one too because I thought he did some really good things when the ball hit the ground, but just over his head, he just again got pushed on the ball, struggled to. No, he didn't mark anything, I don't think.
No,
Um,
and it's becoming a bit of a blight on him because as you said, Cameron. You compare it to Cameron's game, and Cameron, he rucked adequately and all that sort of thing. But I thought his marking tonight was superb. I
oh yeah,
can't recall him really dropping one, and they were contested marks, most of them too. He was
yeah,
brilliant.
yeah. No, no. I mean, they interviewed him post game and talked about how good he is, and he's got to be one of the best, if not the best, intercept ruckman when the ball's being moved around the ground. At the centre bounce, I think sometimes he sort of gets caught a little bit in wrestling or players trying to jump over him. I thought one of the things they really struggled with is just in the midfield, although we mixed it up, they just constantly waltzed it out, which was
Oh
a really
yeah,
painful thing, and it just sometimes you felt we needed to just hold it up for a minute, just, tackle. I mean, the tackling too, there were a lot of tackles where, we tackled them, but we still let them get a handball out. There
no,
was,
we didn't stick the tackles. We got our hands on them, but we just didn't impact. Yeah.
yeah, let's mention the little guy up forward, Jamie Elliott, who
What a
you wrote
game.
off.
Which year? I've had a few cracks at writing him off.
Yeah, I know.
He
Yeah,
keeps sticking it to me, and I hope he keeps that. I hope he keeps that up. No, no pun intended.
yeah. I mean, the game he played, particularly in that last quarter, the two goals he kicked, the one from the boundary, which is about 50 out, and then the one on the other side of the ground from about a half forward,
Mm.
which is about 55 out, which I don't think I really saw because Channel 7 were really good at replaying stuff over live action. Thank you, Channel 7. That's just magnificent. Um, but those are two real crutch goals. And they were really coming hard, They seemed to have momentum. I seem to recall someone texted me we're in trouble. Um, and
That
someone,
turns.
yeah, and then someone also texted me. I think it's going to go like last week. But
No, I didn't say I think it's going to go like last week. I said it's playing out like last week because we had a similar margin going into that last quarter, and when they started pegging us back, it just felt like last week. I didn't think it was going to be the same outcome, or I hoped it wasn't going to be the same outcome, but it did feel like it a little bit.
yeah, thanks. You should
Did I
go.
did I back all right?
Yeah, I was going to say you should be at a Senate subcommittee hearing. Maybe you should have been there for Watergate or something. Yeah, Elliot, really just fantastic. What do you make of Hill? Kick 3 goals. I don't think he did a lot else. He did a few little things.
Actually I thought that was probably one of his better games without being brilliant or anything like that. I think he did cover a fair bit of ground and he did impact contests at the time when they needed to be impacted. He was sort of clutch in some moments. I wasn't upset with his game. You obviously hate him.
No, no, just because they were interviewing post game and they're talking about how he's gone from strength to strength since the grand final, the North Swift medal. And I was like, I don't think he really has. I want him to
Geez,
be.
I think the TV media, they just keep stacking superlatives on superlatives. They don't criticize ever. And it is, you do sit there going, seriously, what are you watching at times? I'm sure they have these conversations in isolation, but in TV, it's always, well, you just keep getting better. Every player just keeps getting better.
Yeah, I yeah, I just sort of don't think he's really dominated games. You know, a lot of the small forwards are going to be they are in and out of games, but it just feels like at times he plays that one really good game and then for 4 or 5 weeks it's just cameos, cameos, and you'd sort of want him to even maybe have a couple more good games in that little patch. Like Elliot, I mean, Elliott's had a great year. To mention that Elliott's second on the goal kicking list at the moment.
Yeah, that's brilliant for a small forward.
Yep, and then you have Schultz. So you were apologising to him, and then I think he didn't do anything until he got knocked out. But he was
Oh,
brilliant
kill
up.
me.
It's straight. I mean, at the start, he was brilliant with his pressure and his tackling and his
Oh,
harassing.
that first half was absolutely brilliant from him. Brilliant. I mean, just some of those intercepts and stuff, the stuff he was doing, he just was tirelessly working.
Yeah,
He was smashing blokes. And then that was it Jackson that
yeah. Who?
raised the elbow and
No,
took him
Clark.
out.
Clark.
Clark, was it?
Yep.
You know what the thing is with Freo players? It's
That
like a
was the same.
clone factory. They all look the same. I've no
Yeah,
idea who are.
I mentioned this in the group message. I know, like, I'm not just trying to be facetious, but I will be. If Clark didn't have the ball, that would be a report and a suspension because he's knocked Schultz out. So,
I think the thing is with it, he's obviously seen him coming and he's put the arm up to defend himself. So I won't write him off to say it was deliberate. But the thing is, if you enforce this to the letter of the law, the
yeah, but that's what I
action
mean.
resulted in Schultz. He's going to miss 2 weeks.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Schultz will miss just next week, the Adelaide game, then he'll be back,
isn't it
presumably.
a mandatory 2 weeks for concussion?
It was something
Well,
weird,
assuming
wasn't
you
it?
fail
Like
the
11
test.
days or something, or 12 days. And then we have
I
the,
thought it was 2 games.
I don't know. I don't know
You
if they've
wouldn't be,
changed it.
the AFL wouldn't be logical and measured in days.
Yeah. No, I just but like it is that sort of thing. Like if Clark didn't have the ball and he raised his arm to fend off the player, and that's the outcome, then he would be in trouble. But in this case, it's like fine, and it's the AFL is saying, well, any football act, you're in danger now. I mean, it's just I don't know. It really annoys me because you just don't know. You don't know what the fuck the rules are. You know who doesn't seem to know what the fuck the rules are? Is Lipinski. I'll take retractions of apologies now, thanks.
He is terminally soft at times.
I said this last week. I think there's players now in that 23 who are the Tarkin Lockyers of 210s. And, no disrespect to Tarkin Lockyer, but Malthouse made a call that they were going to move past some of the stalwarts and bring in young guys. And to me, Lipinski's already there. I don't really know what he brings when we're dominant. He plays really well because he just gets fed on the outside. But geez, I thought that game was diabolical. And I was really encouraged by Allen. Didn't get tons of the ball, but he did some good stuff.
But I reckon he really worked himself into the game in that last quarter, but a little bit towards the end of the third, and
Yep,
then he started to feel like he
he
belonged. I
belonged.
think
Yeah,
he was
in,
impacting
in a high
things.
pressure game because he hasn't done it. He did it
Yeah,
against was it Melbourne under 19s last year, last round of the season when Melbourne had injuries and were not interested in all that sort of stuff. So that was in a really high pressure game. I thought that was really encouraging. The other thing I really liked about Allen, I know this is going to seem silly, but there was a couple of times when there was some aggro going on. He just came in and just pushed Fremantle
yeah,
people away,
threw
like
the flag.
with just some genuine, yeah, a genuine, I don't want to say malice, that's not the right term, but some genuine aggression. I really like that. And the other one, he doesn't get the credit he deserves, but Lockie Sullivan, I thought was really good. I thought he did some really
No,
good things.
he was really the quiet achiever. He was solid, and the thing is, like, he won't get 25 possessions or anything like that a game, but he's not burning it really when he's got it. He's just good with it. No, he had a great game. It's not too many that had a poor game. I think this episode's more the Collingwood fat than the Collingwood rant.
So, do you want me to read your messages about Houston?
My messages?
Yeah,
Did
I got
I? I don't think I read into it too much. Did I?
well too much. So that not implies that asserts that you did rip into him though.
No, I think, as I said, I was going to give him till June, but I actually not really sure what he's bringing at the moment. He's not getting possessions. He's not really defending well. He's just all over the shop. His direct opponent was that Dud. What's his name?
Yeah,
Dudnam or something like that. And just how many times did he just get loose? And Houston was nowhere to be seen. That's your opponent, mate. What are you doing?
I just look at him. He's like Chad Morrison at the moment in Houston, and I just don't know. He's not imposing himself in the game. He doesn't really
No,
have
he's
much
seriously the
presence.
fifth. He's the fifth wheel at the moment. I don't know whether he just can't forge his own identity in the side or what it is. I mean, again, look, I'll give him another couple of weeks, but as you said last week, on his current form, he probably should be dropped.
Yeah, I look. I think I'm not running the club, obviously, but Sullivan and Allen, I don't know how they view Sullivan. If Sullivan's just a, hey, break glass in case of emergency, bring him in for a week or two, then dump him again. I don't know if that's how they view him or if they actually view him genuinely as an investment in the future. I'm assuming it's more so the first case that really he's the guy to bring in situations like this. But I was going to say, like, Allen and Sullivan would be in ahead of Lipinski for me in terms of, you know, let's play these let's get some games into Allen at least rather than Lipinski. And Houston, I just it's sort of like almost you go, you know what, maybe I know they won't do it, but it's almost like let's try someone else in that role because I don't know what the fuck he's doing. Throw him on the wing or throw him into the middle and give him a bit more freedom. But right now, I don't think he's very vanilla.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, it's a worry. Look, but look, we know he can play. It'd be nice if he actually brought some of that
Do
with
we
him
know he
because
can
it's going to
play?
end up being another one. He's cost us a bit. You want to get a return on that.
Yeah, no, it just sort of frustrated. I mean, Perryman's another one I should mention. I thought he was pretty good. He
Mm.
had like one just once where just sort of kicked it out of the fence in a hurry kick, and it was just like a real worry. Uh, in terms of like, obviously we're 7-2 now, so we're on top of the ladder, and we've been pretty good against everyone there is. And I think today's probably or tonight's the best win we've had because it's a win we forged against the numbers. It's a
Oh yeah,
game.
I mean we had no right really probably to go into that game as favourites or anything like that. I think the market did respond and we eventually got our noses in front, which is obviously just a case of dumping money on a good return. But yeah, I mean again, like you look at the numbers and everything, I just don't understand how we won, but it was just the efficiency I think
Well, that was it,
that
is the
was
efficiency. Is every time like we won the ball back through a turnover, we just ran forward with such surgical precision and would find someone. It's also strange that you look at it where you think, okay, if Membry took that mark at half forward, I think it's the third quarter, and then he missed from about 40, and then Hill did that really nice intercept,
Mm,
30 out from goal, straight in front, and then he missed. And it's sort of like,
yeah.
I mean, to be fair, they missed some easy chances too, but it was just like at times you think we could have actually won by more, which would have been really funny given how much they dominated the game generally. So it's an
I mean,
amazing
realistically,
effort.
Freya's been a team that's struggled a bit this year.
Oh, they've been shit
I
this
mean, I
year.
said I mean, they dominated the clearances, especially the centre ones. But I think it's testimony to how well defence stood up to those relentless attacks. They were pretty good,
What do you think
and
of?
getting the ball moving again was brilliant. I think we he said it's probably one of our best wins. It was just superb.
Yeah, I mean, this year of our best wins, like that Brisbane one, because we just beat them up. Beat up the reigning premier, which was just amazing. They were coming off a bit of a short break, but like I said tonight, missing all those players, and on top of missing those players, you're missing guys like McStay and that who injured. So you're missing like 6, 7 players. You're traveling interstate. You're coming off a 5 day break. You're coming off
5 day break. Yep.
a really hard game against Geelong, really bruising game that went right down to the wire. I can't remember which media personality it was, but like they were just saying, the great thing Collingwood did is by resting all these guys, it changed what narrative Longmuir could use with Fremantle because he would have been saying, "Oh well, they're the form team. No one's expecting us to win, especially after last week." And then when we rested all those players, it shifted. It was like, oh, now everyone is expecting you to win, so Longmuir couldn't play the underdog, rant to him. You just had to sort of go, well, hang on, you should win this something now. And they did everything but score. Frampton, what do you think of his game?
Yeah, I know Gary hates him, but yeah, our
Yeah, Gary
friend, good
hates him.
friend
Yeah,
Gary, he just, I mean, he
yeah,
was stabbing a bloody
yeah,
doll
yeah.
like Frampton at one stage. No, I thought he was very solid. Like he cocked up a few times, but the pressure of the amount of times that the ball's coming in, your defense can be excused for being a bit sloppy at times because I think as I can't remember who was commentating on Fox, it was some ex-Fremantle suck and
Average
he only
probably.
mentioned the same points 64 times,
No, not
Pavlich, and
average.
it wasn't Pavlich, but he kept going on about the way that we take risks in the way that we move the ball out of defence, and when it comes off, it's really good, and when it doesn't, it shows you can be vulnerable. It was an astounding commentary. It was
Wow,
just brilliant. It's
it's
like
genius.
if you go outside and it's raining, you get wet. If you go outside and it's not raining, you tend not to get wet. It was that level of commentary. But I think the thing is that yeah, they, the way Frampton was just attacking everything was exactly what you want from that sort of big man. Took some good contested marks when it really counted in the last quarter. I think that was probably also one of his better games of the year.
He's an interesting one. I mean, like I've voiced back Frampton, there's times he seems to get lost, and then he just seems to be in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if he's zoning, or I don't know if the opposition are rotating where their forwards are, so he doesn't know whether he's going with someone or staying back or whatever the case is. Like there's times you just sort of see him in the middle of nowhere. And then other times he attacks the ball ferociously. He's got really neat skills.
Mm.
Sometimes he goes to these kicks where you just think, I'd rather you just sort of back the percentages. But it's just an interesting. Like I thought, Moore had a pretty good game.
Yeah,
Um,
no, he's good.
and that just allows Moore to play that sort of game. Howe also, he's a strange one. There's a few times he just looks so lackadaisical, but he did some really nice things.
Yeah, there was one. I mean, it's odd to think about, but there was one where he went up it was almost his traditional pack
Oh,
mark.
right on the wing, yeah.
And he
He
was right in a
punched it.
position where he could have marked it, and he
Yeah,
punched it.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what's going on?
Yeah,
I
I don't know
wanted
if
to
they
see the big
say.
grab.
Yeah, I don't know if they say you don't jump as high, so don't risk it. But yeah, that was the one on the wing, and he actually got up relatively high. I mean, for most people, that would be really high. Um, any last thoughts about this game?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be too negative about it because the performance was so good. But Quaynor's starting to trouble a little bit. He's just become. You just don't know what type of player he wants to be at the moment. Like he's lost some of that physicality. His strength seems off. But he didn't really disgrace himself either. But it was a
Uh,
low
I
impact game, I think, as considering the amount of times it came in.
Yeah, he's a
It was a
strange
hard
one.
one on it.
I tend to think he's almost like Chris Mayne at the moment, where the bulk of his options just seem really safe. And he just seems to play really safe. Like, you don't really see him leave his man to impact another contest. You don't see him take the risky kick. You don't see him trying to take the game on. I'm not saying you should do
Yeah.
that all the time, but all the good players, I mean, Nick, Josh, Schultz is doing it now. Like, he'll leave his man to come, run down the middle and impact a contest,
Mm.
or lay a tackle. And that's, I've always said that when it's your turn to go, you need to go. Uh, Next week, Adelaide. So they got what, like a 9-10 day break. They didn't train this week, as far as I'm aware. They didn't train much. You got an 8-9 day break now, and then playing Adelaide at the G. Adelaide and us have had some pretty close ones recently. What are your thoughts going into that? I imagine they'll bring back, Pendles, Maynard. My check, McRae said was like he was hoping you'd play. Um,
I
but
think they were busting a hump to get West to debut tonight, but he apparently he's still carrying some sort of foot soreness. I would think that he'd be. Where were we playing? We're back in Melbourne for
MCG,
the next seven
yeah.
games or something, I think. Um, geez, the debut at home in the G, that could be big for him. I think he'll come in for sure if he's over the foot soreness.
Yeah,
I
but
think they may give memory a rest. Side bottom might continue his rest. Like he only played a small amount of game time tonight and was tactically subbed out. He was struggling tonight, I bet. Um, I think coming into there could be at least another three changes this week, and that's nothing through form or anything like that. It's just clearly they've got a plan to manage these guys' loads, and they're sticking to it.
do you think that's arrogance or do you think that's actual well
I don't think it's
intentioned?
arrogance. I think it's just good management.
Yeah, I mean, it's
You know, because
interesting.
I think, yeah, I said last week, I'm pretty certain. I think we thought we'd probably win the Geelong game, and going over to Freo, we could take a risk. Whether like we could rest a bunch of guys, in probably what we would have been, what 7-1 then. You could probably afford to drop that game and not feel too bad. But the Geelong loss probably changed that a bit, but they didn't change what they had in plan. And it was become a risky, ballsy move at the end of the day. That was some major outs
But it's interesting,
for
like
what became. Look, it was a game that you'd rather win and wanted to win now after the loss last week.
so, yeah, it's interesting. I think like they learned last year because they couldn't manage players because of all the injuries. So
Hmm.
they had a lot of guys fall off a cliff, and I think they've probably learned from last year to say, you know what, we might lose in the short term, but for the long term, it's going to be better for us. So, it's better
Yeah,
we lose
definitely.
one here that better positioned as the season goes on, rather than win one here but then drop off as the season goes on. What's your tip against Adelaide?
I think we'll win that by 74 points.
Yeah, it'd be interesting how we actually come up from, we've had a pretty tough run. Obviously we always get criticised for not travelling, but this year we've gone to the Gold Coast to um, stupid gav around to the Brisbane game. There's another one in there, Brisbane. Oh, sorry, I meant Brisbane earlier. But we've like travelled like 4 or 5 times already, haven't we? It's insane. What are we
Yeah,
doing?
and I did hear after the game that they were jumping on a plane tonight coming home. Which surprised me. I thought they might have hung around and done the cool down in the morning and come back during the day, but clearly Cameron was saying he's going to go spend a couple of days with his parents, so they're coming back early. They're going to obviously do the cool down or whatever it's called tomorrow, and then they're going to have a bit of a break before they resume for training to clear the minds a little bit. It's almost like a mini buy type thing with
Yeah,
how many days was it? 8 days or something you were
yeah.
saying? Yeah, so I think we'll take a few days just to sort of go out, relax, have some fun, and we'll get back into it prime for Adelaide. Adelaide won't be easy beats by any stretch.
No,
They're travelling well at the moment. When do they play? Tomorrow, presumably, do
don't know.
they?
No, tomorrow's Carlton St Kilda.
Oh,
Oh,
because it's Thursday today, isn't
yeah,
it? Yeah, I
yeah.
forgot about that. So Saturday then probably would be their game.
Yeah, yeah. So from Age Mal on Spotify, love it, lads. About time somebody represents the feeling, represents of what true Collingwood supporters uh, see week in, week out, and know about a thing about the game. Instead of others, the rest of them jamming their head so far up the arse of underperforming players that he can play one good day in 2 years ago. Give him a break. I can only imagine one of us wrote that. We got out of bed to write that. We got some good feedback from a Geelong Cats fan. Great unbiased take on the game from Brilliant Fly Conversations. We'll listen again if I didn't hate the pie so much. Lol. I really like your take. Then we go back to the YouTube. Getting a lot of things, so we're not going to be able to read all of them. So we're just going to have to sort of
Yeah,
cherry pick some.
obviously with the Zoom tonight, we're tight for time.
Yeah. Phil, Saturday night's boring primetime games. Top of that, no free-to-air games on Saturday. AFL gone backwards since the two clans have taken over. Now that came with ticket off, though. Her nickname should be Krusty. That's from JCD, which is a good point about the fixturing just being. I don't know how you manage 5 day breaks. It's bizarre that you can't pick two teams who might have a 7 day break. Um, Love how you slip in Disney Star Wars comments lol from Ashen Prison. Do you want to
What's
know
the
why we
best
do
of?
that? That's a good question for another time. The goalie needs to be get dropped or play twos until he gets his sense back. He looks very underdone. That might be the worst game Jamie Elliott has ever played from Digsby, and I blame Schultz for
That's a good
that.
call.
Yeah, you've developed our powers. You've watched us, and now you have our powers. Uh, it's not so bad. We have players. I mean, this is against about last week about the guys we sort of who had a quieter games. Someone's taken a shot at you, Stars, Jake. Chris didn't get cheered off. He walked off his kids. Do some research, please.
You know we don't do research. Re Research is for suckers.
Yeah, if you'd done some research, you'd know we don't
Yeah,
do research.
the reality is we do this show because we're vying for jobs for Channel 7. And if you start doing research and talking facts, you won't get a job there. The ability to endlessly talk shit and make stuff up to suit whatever it is the argument is this week is what we specialize in.
A couple of minutes left. Let me just ask you, what should the AFL do about the Willie Rioli situation?
Oh, geez, how do you answer this without being labelled an ist? I think there's, in this instance, I mean, considering some of the penalties that have been given, so like Taylor Walker made a disparaging remark and was rubbed out for 6 weeks. I don't think he threatened anyone's life, did he?
No,
What's
not so.
worse? To get a week for that, and a week after and it's a week where he already said I'm not going to play anyway because of all the scrutiny.
I think it's
Um,
a ridiculous penalty.
I don't think it's been managed well, and
No,
you can't
I
you
think,
can't make it a race-based thing. It
yeah,
should have been called out for what it exactly was. And it's not like he did it once, he's done it a couple of times.
yeah. I think what they should do
But
is
look,
the players he's actually made the comments against, he should take restraining orders out on him. So when he comes back to play, the opposition coaches can just play those players on him, and Rioli will have to stay off him.
was that
Final
intervention
thoughts
ordered?
with final thoughts as we go into our last minute of freebie time.
No, this is a fucking brilliant win. I don't think you can really
Undersell.
how superb this was. I'm wrapped with how we
Yeah.
performed today.
Yeah, all done pies and great coaching effort by McRae. So
They did everything opposite to what we said last week.
I know I backed them to win. You're the one negative. I said it would have been easy, but
It
you are
proves how
pretty
clueless we are.
you are pretty pessimistic. Anyway, that's it from us. Subscribe, like, share, all that sort of stuff, and we'll see you in person next week. Later.
We'll see you next week in person.